Good day. My name is Keith Schuller, estate planning attorney, Alamo, California. I would like to chat with you today about business succession planning, and in that course to do so with reference to the motion picture The Big Short. The Big Short told the story of the financial crash during the Great Recession of the late 2000s. That crash arose because of overextension of credit in the housing market. A few investors saw that crash was going to arise, and they made billions of dollars as a result. Well, The Big Short isn't limited only to the securities industry in such a context. In fact, in business succession planning, The Big Short is very much alive. Well, how is that? Ironically, it is the IRS, which is the party engaging in The Big Short. You see, what happens is approximately 70% of all closely held businesses liquidate on the incapacity or death of the principal owner. When death occurs, the federal estate tax system values the asset of our decedent. And yes, there may be discounts for minority interest or lack of marketability. We also have, however, the fact that a key person is also lost to that business. And while key person discounts are recognized in the law, they may never tell the true story of the economic loss that arises on the incapacity, or in this case, death, of the principal owner. So how does this short work? Well, what happens is there's a date of death value, or there's an election that can be made to value the interest of the decedent's estate 6 months after death, if that lower valuation would arise and save federal estate tax. What happens then is the IRS gets 40% in taxes of the fair market value of the estate's interest in that closely held business. That 40% is the estate tax rate based on the date of death or alternate valuation date value. Unfortunately, what happens is that after death, the businesses decline in value, and perhaps quite significantly. It may not be so immediate that the measure can be determined within the 6 months applicable, within the 6 months period for the alternate valuation date. But the odds are that it will occur, and significantly so. When that arises, whoever then succeeds to the business will then be stuck with an entity that has less value and interests in that from which were left by our decedent that will have less value than they did when the decedent died. So the Big Short arises when the IRS gets money based on 40% of the estate tax value. In other words, it gets 100% of the value, the rate's 40%, it gets 40% of that value, even with discounts. But when the value declines, and if it declines below the estate tax value, then the estate is stuck with a loss. Well, the IRS got its profit when death occurred. In essence, the IRS, quote, sold, close quote, the interest of the decedent back to the decedent's loved ones, where the decedent's loved ones pay the estate tax at the 40% rate. When the business later collapses or is liquidated, if that occurs, then the family, successors, the loved ones of our decedent, get a long-term capital loss. That's when the IRS pays back some of the tax benefit that was earlier incurred when the estate tax had been paid back on death. So that's how the short arises. In essence, the IRS is, quote, buying the business when the decedent dies and then sells it back where it pays when it has the capital loss that it must then allow to the extent available, and the estate or the loved ones then recover some of the money. But they don't come out whole. So what's important for the success of a business and to avoid the short ever arising is to undertake a business succession plan. And that business succession plan is best done while our principal owners are living. Succession planning is not easy and requires commitment. And for our closely held business owner, they have to accept the fact that they will not want their date of death and date of retirement to be the same. It's not always easy to do. The business owners and the entrepreneurs in particular love being involved with that closely held business. It's an important part of their identity. And yet, if the closely held business owner keeps on to the reins too tightly, we may find the fact that succession will never arise. I would like to bring in a little prop here to make the next point, and that is the issue of equality among family members. I have here photographs of my 3 children. So let's say we had a business succession plan, and my wife and I wish to have the closely held business divided among the family members on the death of the survivor. What happens then when we have 3 children? Let's say 1 or 2 of them are in the business and the other ones aren't. Can you leave assets equally among the children? No. There's never pure equality. There can be fairness. And with closely held businesses and the division of an estate, the achievement of fairness in the distribution of assets among family members is most important, particularly if we're hoping to have the family members be as happy as the ones are in the photograph here after the death of their parents and the succession of the closely held business. So business succession planning creates challenges. We've only touched the tip of the iceberg on this subject, but the reference to The Big Short is fully appropriate because without forward planning, the estate may not only lose by having value excessively stated in the estate tax return, despite best efforts to the contrary, but may also find that down the road, the estate will never be able to recover the value that was determined when our decedent passed away. If you wish to have assistance with business succession planning, whether among family owners or non-family owners, you're welcome to contact the Schiller Law Group. Thank you for your attention.